All right, hey, it's Perfect Nerd here again, and today I had taken such a long leave that I had not realized that there's so many game theories videos that I just like passed, and yeah, and I kind of just like hopped off the train for a little bit. There's like four out now, as of today, that MatPat has created, and I'm just kind of stuck. I don't have my other headphones on because my cat's actually laying on my other pair of headphones, the ones that I usually wear. But that's besides the point right now. I'm in the middle of game theory FNAF, Afton's Last Stand. I really want to hear about that Security Breach DLC, which has not come out yet, but I want to know what MatPat has to say about it. Like the Afton amalgamation, I really want to see that. That just sounds amazing. Right before I get on to I just want to give a little shout out to my friend Max, otherwise known as Mr. Spooky Boy on YouTube. He got me this for Christmas. Merry Christmas to all you guys. It's my Roxanne Wolf action figure collectible edition, and you might even see it in the background of some of my videos if I find a place where I can actually put it. But I don't know if I'm going to take it out of the box yet or not. I probably will. I just want to, because that's my favorite character, as you know. Actually, as you don't know, because I haven't posted all of my playthroughs. But you'll see. And you'll see why. And you'll eventually get to it as I continue on through this adventure. But I guess you can tell why. But with that being said, a lot of these are not fully subscribed. Let's add a like to this 269k, and we're gonna hop into chapters of Afton's Last Stand. Sorry if I'm sniffling a lot. I got some allergies going on. With that being said, 3, 2, 1, play.
Oh, it's over! It is finally over! The thing that's been
What have you been
haunting
up
me for
to?
over 2 years is finally dead and buried. The Fazbear Frights book series. 12 books, 36 stories, 2,912 pages. Yeah, you bet I counted each and every page of that thing. No more do I have to waste my nights reading page after page after page of tepid, warmed-over horror for the tiniest scrap of lore. No more will I be forced to try and convince you that the books are important tools for solving the games, actually, guys. And no more will I have to write the words Fazgoo WTF into my notes. I get to go back to being a gaming channel again. Unless, of course, I want to read these 7 Hello Neighbor books.
Unlikely.
Yeah, right. I guess all
What's
I have to
in
do
the
now is
basement?
wait for Security Breach DLC to roll out and, No.
Oh, the Tales of the Pizzaplex. I have not read those yet.
Hello, Internet.
But they
Welcome to Game
go
Theory,
deep.
the show that's basically book theory in disguise, because there's now another FNAF book series
Book
in
theory.
existence. Oh, it physically hurts me to say that, but Tales from the Pizzaplex is a thing that apparently exists.
Scott
The
needs
first
that
book came out a
money.
month ago, and there are now 3 more due before the end of the year.
Continuity.
How is it possible to write so many books? Scott, my dude, I appreciate the hustle, but maybe just spend a little less time on your literature empire and a little more time making a game with a cohesive narrative.
Too bad.
Who am I kidding?
It's
We
all
just
in
used
the
time to
books.
release more Funko Pops. You know, all those essential characters to the franchise, like Radioactive Glow Foxy. I just can't.
That guy.
Regardless of my feelings about the books, one thing I will say is that they've led to some of our most important theories to date. So, despite my better judgment, I read the new one so you guys at home don't have to. And I gotta say, I was surprised.
Still
This
gonna
thing
do
is
it
a
anyway.
roller coaster ride. In this singular book, you have one emotional gut punch of a story that's probably the best in the entire FNAF series, one incredibly gruesome story where people are physically being ripped apart by Glamrock Bonnie, and one where the entire world dies of cancer because a girl wanted to play FNAF AR. That last one, by the way, is barely an exaggeration of the actual story. A girl goes to the Pizzaplex and hops into an augmented reality machine which causes everyone else in the entire world to develop cancer and also give birth to translucent goo babies that eventually swallow the girl whole. This is a product that really exists in the FNAF canon. It's likely that what's really happening in this story is that she's
What is
trapped
this
in the
man
AR machine,
thinking?
and all of this is happening inside the prison of her own mind. But
Yeah,
let me just say that
it's
the
in their
story
head.
leaves it very vague. Anyway, I just saved you 80 pages of reading stories about kids dying of cancer. You're welcome. So in the aftermath of all of this, this. I've rummaged back through the old box of theories to come up with 3 mini theories for you to chew on. 2 that clarify major points from Security Breach, and 1 that gives us an idea of where the game's DLC is gonna take us next. To get there, we're gonna be covering lore. So much lore. Game lore, book lore, real lore, Ballora. More lore than your brain has room for. So get ready there, Laura Croft. Today, we've got ourselves 3 theories at Freddy's. Let's motivate this episode with a controlled shock. Theory number 1, Security Breach's animatronics aren't possessed, except for Freddy. Maybe some people already thought of this. Maybe never really questioned it, but if I'm right, this would be a huge deal because
okay, I kind of figured that. Well, I felt like, yeah, that's not much of a theory. That's more of like, I knew that. I mean, it's not to the fact that, sorry for sniffling allergies, but like, it's not that I had the feeling like they were in control of their own actions, but they had such an in-depth personality because that's how they were made. So they could be made so that they wouldn't want to hurt people because they have their own emotions, they have their own feelings. Freddy, on the other hand, was able to break protocol, was able to go against the system, so clearly he was possessed by something.
It would be the first time in the series that the main animatronics don't have spirits inside of them. This was something that really stuck with me after—
They're just being what they're programmed to be. Their emotions, their interactions, how they go into guard mode at night. It's all that shit.
Our last episode on the Blob, and I figured we should probably discuss it here. So let me take you through my thinking. First, consider this: who would be possessing these animatronics at this point?
Just saying that they're like basic robots is
a fire that, as we spoke about last time,
doing no
as
honor.
Henry intended. As a quick reminder, Henry set the fire to purge all the remaining spirits out of Molten Freddy and Scrap Baby, and he was successful in his project. They're gone now. That's why the puppet mask inside the Blob has no more tears, and why Baby's eyes are all extinguished. What Henry didn't account for, though, was agony. The way I see it, the Blob is a collection of agony that lingers on inside the older models of suits and endoskeletons. The rage that remains even after the spirits pass on.
Hatred.
So if I'm truly right about that, all those past victims have been laid to rest. They're gone. They're removed from the franchise, off the lore table. So if not them, then what spirits would be inside the rock stars? Well, the only other option are the 9 missing kids that we see in the newspaper article during the game's bad ending, and honestly, that's just too many. We only get 6 new animatronics in this game: Freddy, Monty, Chica, Roxy, daycare attendant, and Music Man. It's been too long. I specifically did this episode just so I had an excuse to do that. I suppose you could say that there were 7 if you count the 2 sides of the daycare attendant, but still, that is 2 spirits short. But you don't have to take my word for it. The game outright tells us this itself. About a month ago, Reddit user Seriously Unserious posted a big research doc breaking down the opening cutscene of the game from the perspective of a computer expert. This was research that they were doing for a video on the Rye Toast channel, which, shout out to a fellow FNAF theorist, love your cat by the way. If you've never heard of Rye Toast, go check him out. I mean, when you got thumbnails like this, you know that this is a channel coming from a great creator with some really smart
Map
stuff to say.
is right.
Anyway, in his Reddit post, Seriously Unserious looks at the glitch trap virus for exactly what it is: a computer virus, going into the specific details of how viruses work and seeing how it affects Glamrock Freddy. You see, computer viruses don't live independently within a system. They have to be attached to something, usually a file or a program, and when said program runs, that triggers the virus and allows it to run. And believe it or not, but we actually watch this process happen at the very beginning of Security Breach. Notice how when we're looking through Glamrock Freddy's HUD, we get a glimpse that he's in show mode. There's an integrity bar, and we get a line that says test run. Also, you'll notice the command line interface here where the primary folder is named System32, which has always been associated with the 32-bit version of Windows. In other words, Freddy and the other animatronics are PC Master Race, baby! But as we all know,
so
very
32, not 64.
He stops dancing and begins to glitch out when he gets triggered by a child that's out in the audience. That's what we've covered in the past. But one thing that we've never done is look through these 5 seconds at a quarter speed to actually watch the cascade of events playing out that ultimately result in Freddy's crash. Inside the System32 folder, Freddy runs a program named Git568. We also see this happen in the code when the command line Heat869 pops up. Heat vision or thermal vision. So it would seem like the Git program is telling Freddy to scan the audience and look for a kid to potentially grab. Eventually, there's a second command line which loads in some other programs and runs tests. All of these tests come back with a negative result, except for the last one, which receives a Y. Yes, and that's when the program starts to crash. At the same time, Freddy supposedly finds Gregory in the crowd. This then prompts Freddy's program to define Rule X. Looks like the code is searching for what it's supposed to do in a situation like this. We don't know what that rule is, but we do know that the next step is to return warning 79, which is when we see the word warning pop up in the HUD. Freddy then goes into overdrive and the whole thing aborts. It tries to init task, initialize a new task, but this is met with a void response, meaning that it's not getting a response from Freddy's RAM. The next line then tells us alloc overload, which shows the virus trying to reallocate resources in Freddy's memory, but there's an insufficient amount, which causes SW.failure and Freddy crashing to the ground. After that, he's booted up into safe mode, which is a way to boot up a system that uses only the bare essential programs. Get it? Bare? Because he's a bear. You'll notice that Glitch Trap isn't a problem for Freddy throughout the rest of the game, which tells us that the Glitch Trap virus is actually housed as a part of show mode. It's a non-essential program. This is why
didn't get activated
for the remainder of the game, but the other animatronics are suddenly in Kill Gregory mode, because once the show's done, Glitch Trap activates. It's funny, but in a poetic twist, the Glitch Trap virus caused Freddy to glitch, crashed him out of show mode, which in turn rendered Glitch Trap unable to corrupt his system. It's only after the corrupted parts of the other animatronics are added to Freddy that we finally see Glitch Trap able to get a stronger hold over his system. But let's go back to that allocation overload that prompted Freddy's crash in the first place. Normally, this is caused by a lack of CPU or RAM, but why would it crash inside of Freddy and not any of the other animatronics? What else could be taking up the valuable disk space inside of Freddy? Well, how about the soul of Michael Afton? Why else would Freddy suddenly not have enough resources?
I mean, if you consider his soul a program,
he has something inside of him that they don't. The spirit of someone else. A spirit that starts to show activity once he sees Gregory out in the audience. And while we're on the subject of dead kids, theory number 2, Gregory, everyone's favorite robot kid, was built using old parts of staff bots. I know the whole Gregory is a robot theory is already a bit controversial, but like it or not, robot kids have been an accepted thing inside this universe since Charlie had 4 versions of herself hidden behind closet doors in the initial novel trilogy.
That's
where there's
definitely
a robot
true.
kid, there also tends to be a box that they can pop out of. Again, case in point, Charlie. And wouldn't you know it, but the new Tales from the Pizza
Would
Place
they
book
accept
doubles
it that
down
way
on
though?
both robot kids and boxes, with not just one story, but 2. In the second story, Lally's game, Selena's about to marry the love of her life, Cade. They move into a new house, and while unpacking, Selena sees an old trunk that belongs to Cade, a box that Cade insists is full of memorabilia. Surprise, surprise!
Don't open it.
Memorabilia at all, but rather yet another robot kid, Lally. Yeah,
Why'd
Lally
you open
is
it?
the robot child that's on the cover of this book, but that visual is actually misleading. Lally does have the childish facial features and is around 3 to 4 feet tall, but he isn't purple. Rather, he's meant to be white with black joints. Anyway, once again, we find ourselves with a robot child that's locked away inside of a box, one that is specifically mentioned to be related to the Pizzaplex. But it's another story, Frailty, where things get real interesting. In this one, we're given yet another robot girl, Jessica. But Jessica's built a little bit differently. Around her neck, she wears a heart-shaped pendant that has healing properties. When she shaves off parts of that pendant, she's able to heal sick people around her. As the pendant gets smaller and smaller, rusty, oily metal junk begins to mysteriously
like a magic
appear around
item
her until, once the pendant's gone, Jessica just becomes a pile of scrap. If that story sounds vaguely familiar to you, it should, because the exact same thing happened in the second ever Fazbear Fright story, To Be Beautiful.
To Be Beautiful,
that one, a girl named Sarah finds Eleanor, Fazbear Frights' version of Baby, in a junkyard. As thanks for rescuing her, Eleanor grants Sarah a wish. Sarah wishes, as the title of the story suggests, to be beautiful. Each morning, Sarah wakes up to have
never wish to be beautiful. Very stupid wish.
The stipulation is that Sarah keep wearing a mysterious pendant. In the end, Sarah takes off the pendant and collapses into a pile of rusted old garbage.
And that's what happens.
Rebuilt piece by piece by Eleanor, looking and acting like a human, but held together by a pendant made of remnant. Until the pendant came off, the illusion was broken, and she turned back into trash. Jessica, in this new book, appears to be yet another victim of Baby's scheme. However, there's more to Frailty than just human-looking metal, because I don't think Jessica is just made out of any old junk. I think she's made out of very special junk. At the very start of the story, we get this line, quote, Jessica pushed the wet mop across the hospital floor, to and fro, to and fro. She remembered that saying from somewhere before.
This is kind of making me feel like we're getting more and more into a simulation. Like, what if half of the human race is just animatronics? What if I'm not living? What if I just think that I'm full of blood and organs and stuff like that, and I'm actually metal? That'd be fucked up. Be bad for me. All those doctor visits, the bills, damn.
just didn't remember
waste.
from where. Something from the past. Now, alone, this wouldn't amount to all that much, but this forgotten memory of pushing a mop to and fro is repeated 3 other times throughout the story. It's one of those weird details that goes completely unexplained, has no actual bearing on the plot, but feels important because it's repeated so many times and is so oddly specific. We do eventually learn that Jessica's aware of her current state as a heap of junk held together by a magic pendant, and that it's all tied to a decision that she made sometime in her past when she was a normal kid with a normal life, but this specific memory about a mop? Nothing. She has memories of her past, sure, but the compulsion to mop? Yeah, she has no idea where it's coming from, which is why I suspect it's not her memory. Instead, I think it's coming from the memory of these guys, the staff bots in Security Breach. We have a number of mopping staff bots throughout the facility,
Always
all
mop.
programmed to move their
Must
mops
keep
to and fro,
mop.
to and fro, just like Jessica. Now, we know that Jessica's made out of junk.
It is
I'm not
Tales from the
suggesting that
Pizzaplex.
she's just a staff bot in disguise or something, but we also know that there's a lot of broken and discarded staff bots underneath the Pizzaplex, and the Pizzaplex is mentioned in the story Frailty. So what if Eleanor uses parts of these broken down staff bots as part of the junk to recreate Jessica, and the memory inside its metal has mixed with Jessica's own memories?
What if
Well, it would
baby's
explain
still
why she
alive?
remembers the phrase, but not where it comes from. It would
Agony.
also explain a lot about Gregory's robotic origins. Now, that admittedly seems like a stretch, but stick with me. During our initial playthrough of Security Breach, I called out the strange presence of staff bots in 2 major secret rooms. First, staff bots are either mangled or fully dismantled in the secret daycare room.
A lot of disassembled staff bots. I mean, this one's been beat up. Kind of like torn apart.
This is a room that we theorized could probably be Gregory's hideout, considering that we see t-shirts hanging up alongside the walls, kind of like you would a closet, as well as the pictures that label a small child as me also posted on the walls. You know, looking back on this room almost a year later, there's another picture in here, my fun day,
fun
with a
day.
big old birthday cake and me labeled right next to it. Just saying, the connections between this kid and FNAF 4's failed birthday party keep stacking up. Anyway, lots of weird beat up staff bots exist in here in a way that they don't appear practically anywhere else in the game. The second place that we see beat up staff bots is in the most lore heavy room in the game, the post-it room down in the sewers. At the time, I was
Right.
focused on the messages on the post-its, with the one binary one that translates to "Why is I?" This is what led me down the path of Gregory being a robot, and that the
Why
message is
is
the first
I?
step into consciousness.
Shakespeare.
But post-its aren't the only thing that are in that
Why?
room. There are also hundreds of broken staff bot heads that are
think I
piled
already
along
made
the
that
walls,
joke.
not endoskeleton parts, specifically staff bots. At the time, I proposed that Gregory might have just been experimenting with the parts. It was just kind of a throwaway comment. But now, thanks to Jessica's connection to a mop bot, I feel like
Have those comments always been on? Because I feel like they haven't. Not comments, captions. Please tell me if you like the captions on or not, because I'm just leaving them
maybe
out.
the staff bots and Gregory might be more related than I initially thought. He's
I've made this
asking,
mistake
"Why is
so many
I?" because his
times.
actual memories as the crying child are only just beginning to come back, clashing against the programming of the staff bot who was never truly alive in the first place. And it's why there are all these pieces of broken staff bots up in the daycare room. If he needs a repair, he can just use those parts because they're exactly what he's made from. Gregory has been pieced together with the parts of broken staff bots. All
He's
we
like an
now
ultimate
prove is the
staff
heart-shaped
bot.
pendant that lies underneath his striped shirt, which means it's time we talk about the other child we see in Security
Someone better
Breach.
rip him
Theory
apart.
number 3,
We need to
Security
know
Breach DLC will be the official
the
end
lore.
of the Afton saga.
I always come back.
Nope, not this time, my friend. I feel
What if he
real
does?
confident about this one. How do I know? Well, it all
I'm kind of ready for the Afton saga to end, be honest, and like issue in the Vanny saga or something like that. Especially since, like, if Vanny were to escape, like seen in the true ending, I'm just all for that if she did. But we don't really know which ending is the true ending. It's complicated.
all comes back to color. Color has always been hugely important to the
Color.
franchise. Slightly confusing at times, but important nonetheless.
color.
So rather than looking at the poster for hidden eyes up in the corners or trying to figure out why Gregory might be on a computer monitor, I instead wanted to bring your attention to 2 specific color clues that have been given through this poster. First of all, the title. Take a look at that new logo we got. Security Breach Ruin. Security Breach, as you'd expect, is just the main game logo, but Ruin is purple. Well, this franchise is known for its use of bright colors, especially in the neon
Right.
complex. Purple is always always reserved for the Aftons. Obviously, both William and Michael are purple. In the Princess Quest ending, both Vanessa and Gregory are purple. Burntrap's room is purple and so are his eyes. Purple is Afton's color. And so, with a purple logo and a room filled with purple lights, I have a feeling that what I predicted at the end of my last theory might come to pass. With Afton being absorbed by the blob, he's gonna take control of it, and it'll be up to us to put an end to him once and for all. But how? We've used fire 3 times at this point, and it's never once worked, so what else can we do? Well, we can use the girl on the poster. When I first looked at the poster, I knew that there was something
Like
fishy
melt
about
him?
her.
This is weird. Why'd you turn
In lava?
That's too suspicious. You don't color in one part of your asset and then leave the rest of it black and white.
First of all, let's take a look at the only color that we have to work with here, the
Right.
shoes. Those lights are pinky red, the same as the pink top of Elizabeth Afton, a little girl who happens to be close to Gregory's age. The girl in the poster also has pale hair, which would imply that it's blonde rather than brunette. There are definitely some level of physical similarities here, but Elizabeth, just like every other kid in this franchise, is dead. She got herself scooped by babies, so it can't possibly be her, right? Or can
True.
it? I suspect that the black and white palette may be just more than hiding her identity, but also informing us to how she's gonna be here in the first place. In media, making something black and white usually implies that it's something from the past, maybe before color television, or just remembering something like Christopher Nolan's Memento. Elizabeth being in black
That
and
is
white while
technically
the rest
true.
of the image is fully in color suggests that she is, in some way, a memory from the past. Now, I theorized last time that to beat Afton and his agony, you'd have to do what the Stitch Wraith did back in Fazbear Frights. You'd have to go inside his mind, find the good
Use
memories
the combined
within the agony,
power
and
of
make
friendship.
the good memories stronger, essentially trapping the person
And
within the happy
destroy
memories to help
him.
the agony disappear. So if this is Elizabeth, well, then that's probably why she's in black and white. She's a construct of when she was alive in Afton's memories. In the end, we might not be exploring the real ruins of the Pizzaplex in the DLC, but rather the ruins
His
of Afton's own mind. A jumbled mix of rage and sadness, pizzerias spread across time and space, a life that has fallen to ruin. If I'm right, the DLC could be an
God, what if it ends with like her as Elizabeth just like hugging Afton and like her saying like I forgive you or something like that, and then he like starts crying, and then the like animatronic body fades into like a human body, and then he just like starts crying, and then it just like Thanos is away. I don't know.
exploration
my
of
thought.
every other key point in the timeline of these games, as we, the memory of Elizabeth, try to put our father to rest once and for all. And honestly, it makes sense for the narrative at this point. Afton was absorbed by the blob. The blob is a collection of anger from all of his past victims. For the first time, the two are truly interacting, fusing together. It's the narrative excuse to bring Killer and
The
Joe together to
amalgamation.
explore the memories of those moments and finally give everyone peace. Or revenge, one of the two. So there you have it,
yeah,
Steel Wool.
okay,
I wrote your ending for you. You forced Afton upon us in Security Breach when we all thought he was gone.
Be
so
like, we're not
might as
gonna
well
do
him
that.
some justice and give him the ending he deserves. This is the end of Burntrap and the Blob, closing the book on the Afton.
How many people
saga
are gonna
for
be
good,
like,
allowing for a
no,
fresh start
no,
in the
Afton
next
does not
project.
deserve a
It's
happy
finally time
ending.
to give the
That
fans
piece
what
of
they
shit.
really want.
He doesn't
AR
deserve
game
a happy
curses the world
ending.
into a debilitating illness and turns babies into Fazgoo. You know what? On second thought, maybe we just don't adapt that story for the games.
Yeah, but there's more
hey,
books.
That's just a theory. 3 game theories. Thanks for watching.
That sure was. And you think we're done yet, because we are not. I don't know if this one has anything to do with Security Breach, but let's go into...
What if I told you that
Yeah, I'm not even
everything
gonna-
I thought we knew about FNAF was a lie? That Freddy...
I'm not even gonna say
Bonnie,
3, 2, 1, go. I have to pause it there. What if it's like Golden Freddy never existed? That's my surprised face. That's my shocked face. It's like I try to raise my eyebrow, but I can't really do it.
Cut
But let's
and
play.
Foxy were
Let's
never
get into it.
possessed. That the bite of 87 never happened. Heck, that the bite of 83 never happened. What if I told you that
I
William
don't
Afton
believe
didn't
it.
die because some
Never,
spirits
no.
harassed him in a back room because he got
Impossible.
careless and wet? What if
Please
I told
don't
you
say
that
Golden
Golden
Theory.
Freddy never existed?
It's
You would
all
think that I was crazy.
imaginary.
That after 60 episodes covering
It
the series
never
that I finally
happened.
lost it, or gotten so desperate that I needed you to throw it all away and start again for content. But I assure you, I'm still here, totally sane, or I guess
Too
as
much
sane
content.
as I've ever been, and totally suspecting that some, maybe even all of the
Who
statements
needs
that
this
I just
much
made
content?
are 100% true. So open your ears and listen to what I have to
Prove
say,
it.
because once I'm done, none of us will look at this
The
franchise
2 words
same
every
way again.
theorist fears the most.
Hello, Internet.
it.
Welcome to Game Theory, where... Am I the only one that hears that weird humming sound? I think
Yes.
it's coming from the subscribe button. Can you help me smash it? Oh, thank goodness. That was driving
Did
me
I?
insane.
I already
What's
done.
the
I'll do it
small
again.
disc
Fuck
that
it.
fell out? Yep, probably not important. Today is a big day as far as FNAF theory goes. Usually I'm here picking apart details from the newest book, or trying to solve one very specific part of the franchise's history, or reminding you that robot kids do in fact exist and Gregory is one of them. But this episode has a wider scope. It's bigger. It touches literally everything released in the franchise thus far. I don't know if I agree
Even
with today's
Scott
theory
himself.
or not. I don't even know if I like today's theory or not. Scratch that, I do know. Kinda hate it, and what it means for the franchise. But regardless of whether you
Then
agree or
stop
disagree,
thinking.
love it or hate
He's
it,
thinking
I am
too hard.
asking you to keep an open mind about it, because this one
Fine.
feels important. And the implications of it, if true, would
I will
certainly
open
result
my
in the
mind.
biggest shakeup for the series since the conclusion of FNAF 6. Today, I'm asking you to take everything that
Just
you thought
for
you knew
you.
about FNAF 1, 2, 3, and 4. Possessed animatronics, the crying child, the missing children's incident, the entire existence of Golden Freddy. Take all of that and burn it to the ground. Maybe not burn it. We've seen that tends not to work. Take it all and put it through a paper shredder or something, will ya? Because
Yeah.
none of it matters. None of it. It's all wrong.
Destroying
Or maybe it
my-
isn't. But before I explain
Jeez.
why, I have to tell you that brand new holiday theoryware is available right now. And while I might not be the hugest fan of the implications of today's theory, I am the
too late
hugest
for
fan
me.
of the merch that we've got lined up
too
for you.
late
Starting
for the
off with
merch.
The newest addition to my
Why is the
rainbow
merch
jacket
so long?
out of existence. Speaking of retconning, back in 2019, we got the release of Five Nights at Freddy's
Thanks for
Help Wanted,
making a
otherwise known as
timestamp
FNAF
for it.
VR, a game
Very
that, to
nice.
this day, ranks as my third favorite from the franchise. On one hand, it was looking forward to the next phase of the series by introducing a new villain, Glitch Trap, but it also had its feet firmly planted in the past, a culmination of everything that had come before in a very literal way, by collecting the first 3 games and turning them into VR experiences. It really felt like an inflection point for the series, a transition from the old story of a serial killer in a haunted pizzeria to the new stories it had yet to tell about the killer living on through technology. But buried in the game were some lines that made everyone stop and go, huh? Right at the top, we got this moment.
We know that Fazbear Entertainment has developed something of a bad reputation, and while it's true that some stories associated with our name were loosely based on actual events, the majority of them were total fabrications from the mind of a complete lunatic. Lawsuits pending.
With the lunatic shown on screen being, of course, a picture of Scott Cawthon himself.
You
It felt like
thought
good
that
meme
was a
fodder,
joke?
A funny meta joke that also poked fun at Fazbear Entertainment papering
But
over
what
their
if it's
bloody
not?
history. But then the game chose
It's
to
not
double
a
down.
joke.
In one of the game's hidden lore tapes, we learned more about this lunatic spreading
It
lies about the
specifically
Fazbear
says
restaurant.
Scott
They
Cawthon.
lied to all of us. They told
Imagine.
us that the whole point of this VR game was to undo the bad PR done by a rogue indie game developer. But that's
Yeah, they
not
really
true at
didn't
all.
like you
Fazbear
guys.
Entertainment hired the game developer. Those indie games were designed to conceal and make light of what happened. It's an elaborate cover-up.
It was weird. It seemed like FNAF VR was actively throwing into
really
question
happened?
everything we thought we knew about the franchise's lore. At the time, I went on the record to say
Imagine
that if
thinking everything that we've seen is actually wrong. It's just what Scott Cawthon was paid to make us think happened. But in reality, it didn't actually happen. I think that's what he's talking about. I just had a brain-gasm there. Okay, continue.
FNAF VR's tapes are to be believed, pretty much everything we know could all be thrown out as complete fabrications. The long story short
No, I
here
believe
is
it,
that
kind
FNAF
of,
VR,
little.
in making
I
Scott
still like
part
to
of the
believe
Fazbear
all the other
cover-up
stuff,
is
though.
the franchise's way of rebooting the story. It's explicitly telling us that everything we've known up to this point is wrong.
Are you
It's
telling me
scratchy,
that
and that's
everything
largely where
I've
the community
paid and
left it. It's a
played
bit of a
through
weird call
is
for the series to
absolute
disregard
bullshit?
everything that had come before, but honestly, it would have been
Are
fun to
you?
use the old original story arc with the first 6 games, and here's the new one moving forward. 2 separate story arcs told within the same universe. Fine. Until Security Breach came out. Suddenly, Springtrap was a key
Done.
player again, and we were exploring the burned remains of the FNAF 6 location. And the idea of the first 6 games being the crazed ramblings of a hired lunatic were largely forgotten as we were thrust yet again back into the story of the Aftons. Business as usual, only this time, there was Music Man!
Yeah, that guy, put a
was
pin
pretty
in
much
it.
the status quo for the past year. But then, in late September, September, the unthinkable happened. We got
DLC?
another book.
Oh,
I
no,
know,
the
I know,
book.
I said the B word. I'm sorry, but
Haps.
stick with me. This one's different. You see, this one delivers on the hope that we've had for the books from the very beginning, that they would take small moments from the games and expand upon them to bring more clarity. Care to guess what moment from the games they chose to expand upon? The story of a rogue indie developer hired by Fazbear Entertainment to create a series of games covering up the company's shady past. And if there was any lingering
I was gonna say the tapes.
doubt as to how this story fit into the games, the title was none other than Help Wanted. I'm about to summarize what exactly happens in the story, but the TLDR of
80
it is
pages.
exactly what we predicted back in 2019, that everything you thought you knew about the franchise is dead, just not exactly in the way that we thought, and it suddenly
You're gonna make
changes
me lose it
everything about
right
how
now.
we should be approaching this
I'ma lose it.
franchise moving forward. In the story, we follow a character named Steve, an indie game developer stuck in a dead-end job while working on a, quote, fetch quest-based game featuring cartoony chipmunks. Now, what could that be a reference
I've
to,
lost
Scott?
it.
Just like
I've
we hear
lost
about in
it.
FNAF VR, Steve is contacted by Fazbear Entertainment to create a series of games in order to help rebrand the company. At first,
This
he
man
turns
knows
down
just
the offer.
exactly
Not
what
the
he's
company to
doing.
take no for an answer, Fazbear then sets up an elaborate plot where they catfish Steve into a date with the woman of his dreams.
Oh,
During the
come
date,
on.
he passes out, only to wake up and find that suddenly he's married to the woman and suffering from severe memory loss. This
Fuck.
happens a few more times, waking up to discover that he now has children, or that the house he lives in is being foreclosed. Suddenly, in desperate need of money, he contacts Fazbear Entertainment and starts making games for him. 4 games, to be specific.
Who
All
are
while
these
a constant
people?
ringing is happening in his ears. Bit by bit, he becomes more sleep-deprived and paranoid, which then feeds into his games. At night, he's haunted by night terrors, horrific monsters that keep popping out of the walls, which only pushes him to work harder. And throughout it all, the ringing continues to build, rotting his brain. Eventually, Steve discovers what's going on. The high-pitched sound that he keeps hearing has been creating illusions used to gaslight him. His house, just a series of blank rooms. The night terrors, amusement park jump scares coming out of the walls. His beautiful family, robots with plastic faces and wheels. Their physical description actually sounds a lot like the staff bots. Steve is then given a choice of going back to the miserable real world or returning to the happiness that he felt inside the illusion. He chooses the illusion, giving his robot wife a hug, who then stabs him to death. Oh, also there's a DJ on the radio called DJ Dan, the Music Man. It's not important to the lore, it's
I don't know what to say. It kind of broke me a little. I'm like, God, I feel so bad about your life now. God damn. Like, really gotta read these books. I don't know what to
memes.
think.
It is a super sad story. It's also in no way a tale from the Pizzaplex, considering the place isn't mentioned once. But more than anything else, it's a story that confirms some of our greatest fears about the franchise. First and foremost, illusion discs are now officially a thing in the games. If you don't know what illusion discs are, then good for you. You clearly avoided reading the novels. I,
Yeah.
however, not so lucky.
Illusion
Basically, these
discs
things use
are
high-pitched noises to trick the
insane.
human mind into creating intensely real illusions of things that aren't really there. A robot appears exactly
Almost
like a
out of
human.
water.
A pizzeria is more decorated than it actually is.
Gotta
Characters
pee
turn
soon.
practically invisible on camera. These are all ways that they've been used in the books, but up until this point, we've never had a reason to believe that they were in the game universe. The
Illusion
only
discs
time that
are
I've
just
suspected that they
OP
might
in
be a
this
thing in
shit.
games is
In this
scene
game.
from Sister
In this
Location, when
world.
we remove a random flash.
I could learn
disc
how to
from
make
Funtime
these.
Freddy's chest. It was just speculation at the time, but now going back, listen to that scene.
The chest cavity should now be open. Remove the power module from the chest cavity. Great work.
You hear it? The buzzing? That humming is only present in scenes where we're directly interacting with an animatronic.
That's
in
also
close
not what I would
proximity.
expect a power module to look like.
Just saying, there might have been more evidence to suggest that these things were actually in the games earlier than we thought, but hindsight's 2020. With this new story, we know it's valid technology, and that has huge implications for things that we see throughout Security Breach, like when we hear high-pitched.
I like that these goddamn chips can bend reality. Imagine if you had your goddamn earbuds in your fucking these in your ears, so you couldn't hear the discs. Like, they have to bend reality or some shit. Like, if you can hear them. But what if you can't hear them? What if you had your buds in and you're just walking down the street and you just see a fucking animatronic X-code in no suit just waltzing down the sidewalk walking their dog? Like, what would you even think? You'd just be, I would probably do nothing. I'd be like, I gotta go to Walmart. I can't stop to ask questions. Not my problem. Not my business. I mean, probably gotta be the world's business sooner or later. But I just gotta. I got places to be. I don't know. It's so weird.
Ringing and have distorted vision.
Reality
anytime Fanny
bending
runs past
shit.
us. Why Glamrock Freddy apparently can't see Vanny until he gets Roxy's eyes. It's all much more likely now because she's using illusion discs. It may also play into the mystery of who Patient 46 is. In Retro CD number 15, we hear this clip.
I have this still shot the techs pulled from the security footage that recorded you in the Pizzaplex. That's you, isn't it? I know this image is distorted, but I think it looks like you. You're talking to someone. Or something. They almost look like rabbit ears.
One of the consistent features of the illusion discs is that they distort or blur any images that appear on camera. We see this all throughout the fourth closet. So the fact that the still image and the distortion are directly being called out here in the CDs indicate that Patient 46 may also be hiding behind an illusion disc. Who knows? If my guess was right and Gregory is meant to be Patient 46,
so they never get caught.
Blurry here in the camera shots from the DLC poster. Admittedly, that opens up its own can of worms and contradictions that would merit their own discussion. Like, why would he be clearing all these other pictures? I'm just tossing it out as something for us to chew on. Much more importantly, though, the Help Wanted story confirms that FNAF 1, 2, 3, and 4 are canonically video games within Freddy's fictional universe. They were created by a hired gun. A hired gun who, in the story, is confirmed to not be familiar with the events that happened at Freddy's. Quote from the story, "It took a few seconds for the name Fazbear to ring a bell.
What does that say about the movie?
Pizza places that once had been wildly popular
coming out.
suffered a downfall after a variety of criminal allegations. There had been talk of murders, though Steve didn't remember how many. There was weirder stuff too. Stories about paranormal events and that kind of nonsense. Steve doesn't actually know the stories and events that took place. He doesn't remember how many kids died. He doesn't believe in paranormal activity. He is an unreliable narrator.
He's just a guy, yeah.
Everything in those first 4 games.
He has no experience with what
paranormal
happened.
Activity, so he created possessed animatronics. He knew about murders, so he put in minigames depicting kids being murdered. As for the facts, though, he cannot be trusted. And the story tries to make it crystal clear that FNAF 4 was largely of his own creation, born out of the torture that Fazbear was subjecting him to. As his hallucinations get more nightmarish, Steve starts seeing monsters literally appear out of the walls. One of them is described as follows, quote, "It was the head of something. It was small but bulbous and vain. Its large eyes almond-shaped with cat-like pupils. It lunged forward from the hole in the wall and parted its jaws to reveal a mouthful of sharp-looking teeth. Its pointed tongue darted out like a snake's when it sniffed the air." This moment isn't just to show us Steve's torture, it's to show us the influence that it has on the games that he's making. Look at the description. Does it remind you of anything? A character with cat-like eyes, a long pointed tongue, sharp teeth, who likes to pop out unexpectedly. It's Nightmare Foxy from FNAF 4. Look at this picture from the teasers leading up into the game, especially the long-pointed tongue. Who else pops out from the closet, from under the bed, from behind a TV in that game? Foxy. The book is spelling out for us why that game is so different, why it's no longer a game about Fazbear Pizzeria. The torture became so much that the story had shifted from being a Fazbear story to being a Steve story. 4 games,
God
1
damn it,
story.
Steve.
The clue that Scott gave us a long time ago during a live stream after the release of FNAF 4. At first, I suspected the line was all about dream theory, that all
4
of it was happening
games,
in the nightmares
1
of a child.
story.
And I think that one was right. Then it shifted to the 4 games being about one family, the Aftons, as their kids grappled with the sins of their father.
1 story.
I think that was also right. But now it's changed once again. It's now 4 games about one new story, Steve's story. The story of a game designer that was being gaslit by an evil robotics company. You know, I gotta hand it to Scott.
Wouldn't that mean that all of the Afton shit, all the Afton stuff that happened, wouldn't that mean that all those theories, all that stuff, isn't really true? Because, well, obviously, because Steve didn't know about it. Well, what if they were just children? What if it was all speculation? There's no Elizabeth Afton. There's no Michael Afton. That's just some dude. He could have been named John. Like, all of that was speculation based off what Steve randomly generated.
Scott, It's actually impressive how
God
many
damn.
times he's been able to make that single phrase describe the same set of 4 games. It also means
Should've
that
took a
Scott gets to have his
Benadryl.
cake and eat it too. He gets to make those first 4 games the equivalent of Dream Theory without it actually being a dream. Oh, was the puppet referred to as a he in FNAF 2?
Out of water.
Steve didn't know. Were there 5 victims, 10, 15 in that first set of pizzerias? Don't know. Steve's just making his best guess. But
He's-
most importantly of all, it means that
he's
anything that
fucking
doesn't
guessing.
physically appear in or after Sister Location and beyond is suddenly cast into doubt. And when you think about it, that includes some major parts of the lore. For instance, we know that Michael Afton is in fact a security guard for Fazbear Entertainment at some point thanks to the security logbook. Plus, with Sister Location in FNAF 6, we know that he ends up getting scooped and dying in a fire. Sister Location also proves
Basically
the existence
just
of Elizabeth Afton and how she
dull
got scooped
fuck
by
the
Baby.
entire
But the
thing.
third
It's
Afton
awful.
kid, Crying Child,
Why?
he's never been mentioned
Why would you do
in
this?
any other
What's your-
game other
Steve?
than FNAF 4. I've made theories
Steve.
suggesting that he's the other spirit communicating
Steve,
with
my
Cassie
man.
in the survival logbook, but that's just speculation.
Make my hands
because I
shake.
assume that he existed. In FNAF 6's Midnight Motorist, there's reason to believe that he's the one who broke out of the house.
Gotta massage the
considering that
nasal
Mike in the chair
passages.
says
What was-
he's had a hard night, but again, that is pretty
going
weak
on?
evidence. Honestly, the closest we get to having physical evidence of his existence is in Security Breach's post-it room, where
The
there's a dinner scene made up of
room.
5 staff bots that appear to be simulating the Afton family. And one of those 5 is missing its head, which we've assumed represents the crying child getting chomped. But all
This
of that
is
evidence
just
only stands
stop
because the
saying
crying
that
child
your
was thought to exist
assumptions
thanks to
are
the
just
first 4
assumptions.
games. Maybe that's why we've never actually gotten a name for it.
Theories
because he
are
was
just
never meant to
theories.
exist in the first place. And so Scott purposefully hid
Right.
the name in order to allow the 5th Afton child's identity
Chris
to remain
Afton or
anonymous,
whatever
ready
his
for a
Afton
big
name
plot
is,
twist when
he's
it turns
just-
out that he has another child, maybe a daughter, maybe called Vanessa. It's speculative as all heck. I'm just throwing it out there as a consideration. Henry and Charlie are definitely in this universe. We see Charlie's death and possession of the puppet thanks to the minigames in FNAF 6, so that's all
True.
confirmed. But the missing children's incident where 5 kids were murdered at the FNAF 1 location? Unclear. It's likely that it happened, considering that in FNAF 6's lore keeper ending,
But
we see
who
5
were
gravestones
they?
with one on a hill.
We
The 5
don't
missing
know.
children's incident victims plus Charlie, the 6 victims of William Afton. It's the same thing with Princess Quest. To move forward in the Princess Quest minigame, you have to light 6 gravestones. So it seems like those 5 murders happened, but then what about the extra 5 dead bodies that we see appearing
That
throughout
could
the
just
FNAF
be
2
what
pizzeria? What about hearing that the
Steve
pizzeria
thought.
is getting closed down in the tapes?
How
Even
the
less
hell
clear. FNAF
do
VR's
you
made
do
evidence
that?
proves
Like,
William Afton is still the main killer in this universe,
it's
and that he
all
definitely stuffed kids into the
speculation.
animatronics. However, whether those kids go on to possess the animatronics
That
is
either
up for debate. Without the
ruined
first
it
4
or-
games
or
being officially
fucking
canon, we don't really have any evidence for their possession.
pushed it
but
through the
perhaps
roof.
biggest ripple effect of them all, this new understanding of the canonicity heavily suggests
You.
that Golden Freddy may never have existed. That's right, my
Yes.
favorite clickbait
Like-
yellow boy
but
may
like-
not actually be a thing in this franchise at all. Consider this:
how?
Golden Freddy, while seemingly this super important
could have
piece of the
been
lore to the
e-
franchise,
he's
hasn't
like
shown up in a major
everything.
way in any recent titles. He's only ever shown up in titles with
Or he could
questionable
be
canonicity,
nothing.
like FNAF World, which is definitely not canon, Custom Night, which
obviously.
is Afton's personal hell, and
Of
FNAF AR,
course.
which isn't really canon. And if you think it is, then both Shamrock Freddy and Chocolate Bonnie are canon, and I refuse to live in a world where that could possibly be true. But in the main
I do
games,
too.
nothing. In Sister Location, his name is used in a Custom Night challenge. In FNAF 6, completely absent. And in Security Breach, sure, there's a golden Glamrock Freddy that you can collect, but there's a golden toy of every character that you
Right,
can collect. In
right,
fact, I
so-
think Security Breach was outright trying to tell us that Golden Freddy has never been a thing. Of the dozens of collectibles that you
He's
can find
such
throughout
an-
the game,
he-
plushies,
she-
figurines,
Cassidy's
keychains,
such an
sweaters,
important
4 of them
character.
actually seemed important.
It's
3 posters
all
from Fredbear's Family
speculation.
Diner and an even older
That's my new
one
favorite
from
word now.
Fredbear's
I'll
A
keep
Singin'
using it. I'm
Show.
not gonna
The
stop
Singin'
using it,
Show is,
unless I forget.
I don't know, man. It makes it look like the next game is going to be a crossover with Bendy and the Ink Machine. But the Fredbear's Family
kinda
Diner
cool.
ones are the ones that I want to focus on now. Look at these things. One
'Cause
of them has the golden
Fredbear
Bonnie with a purple bow tie, just like
might
you'd
not be
expect.
Golden
But the
Freddy.
other
Or maybe it
two
is.
show us
I don't
a
know.
brown bear with a black hat and a black bow tie. And you see, that is a huge detail. Up until this point, we've been
It's
under
not
the
Golden
impression that there
Freddy.
were only 2 mascots
just
at
Freddy.
Fredbear's Family Diner: Golden Bonnie and Golden Freddy. In FNAF 3, we see a
What
Golden
if it was
Bonnie and
Golden
Freddy
Bonnie
performing
and just
together on
Freddy?
stage. Similarly, in FNAF 4, we see Golden Bonnie and Golden Freddy again. It was
True.
always those 2 together, with other characters like Foxy and Chica not showing up until later. So why then in Security Breach would they show us regular Freddy as the one on the Fredbear posters? Unless he is
'Cause
Fredbear. It's everything that we've been talking about today. Our
Fredbear.
evidence for Golden Freddy is all found
never
the original 4 FNAF titles. Games made by a guy whose
existed.
brain was slowly turning to mush. But when you actually stop and look for the physical evidence of who Fredbear was in the games that are still considered to be canon, all we get is a brown bear.
Sorry if that
Golden
hurt your ears,
Freddy
guys.
was never real. He never existed. I know, it seems wild, but it actually helps answer a lot of questions that we've had about Golden Freddy throughout this franchise. First off, his wildly inconsistent appearance. In both FNAF 1 and 2, he appears gold with a black hat and bow tie. But in the FNAF 2 minigame,
It is
showing
better
Charlie
for
being killed outside
continuity, but at the
Fredbear's family
same
diner,
time,
the Freddy
it
we
just-
play as is brown with a black hat, more similar to the Fredbear that we see in the posters for Security Breach. In the FNAF 3 minigame that apparently shows us Fredbear's family diner, he goes back to being gold with a black hat. But then in FNAF 4's minigame, he's shown to be gold with a purple hat and bow tie. His appearance has
Found more
never
water
remained
bottles.
consistent, which could make sense if these are games being made by a guy who's under extreme duress. If Golden Freddy isn't around, then who could have done the bite of 83? Well, it could be that that never happened.
I bet the extreme duress is like Scott, because when Scott was originally making the games, people just kept wanting more. So he kind of was under extreme duress.
never seen a gravestone for Crying Child.
I think I said that word
Golden
wrong.
Freddy doesn't exist, then where does Cassidy's soul reside? Well, again, we still don't have any proof
Cassidy
that the
is
original missing children
speculation,
actually
too.
possessed any animatronics. All their souls may have just moved on.
Golden Freddy
or
doesn't
been
exist,
immediately
then
converted into
maybe
remnant.
doesn't.
Cassidy only really
Does-
appears in
duh,
Ultimate Custom
duh.
Night, so either their spirit is attached to Afton's, like Andrew's is in the Fazbear Fright
Fuck.
series, or it's just
God.
William torturing himself over the memory of this one child that he murdered in cold blood. Long story short, I still haven't
He
fully
knows
worked
he
out the
does not
ramifications
care,
of all this,
though,
and I'd love
but,
your help
like,
working through it,
Afton,
because
come
this
on,
revelation
God.
about the first 4 games being games demands a whole new way of looking at the series.
No,
The
Matt,
ripple
Matt,
effects of this
please don't
revelation
ask
are
me for help.
huge,
Don't
and it
ask
casts
me
the
for
series out
help.
into stuff that we thought that we knew about the games. I
I'm
mean,
the
with all the
last
new
person
books
you
and
wanna
games
ask
and
for help.
revelations that we've had since the release of Security Breach, I've been meaning to do a state of the lore video for a while, just to make sure that we're all operating on the same page of what is true and what isn't
Next
true. 'Cause at
hour
this
and a
point,
half.
It's hard for even me to keep
State
track
of the
of what
lore.
we've proved, what's only speculation,
Like,
all
this
of
is
that.
proved,
And after
this is
episodes like
proved,
today,
this is
that sort of
proved.
video feels more important than ever. So keep an eye out for that one in the next couple of
Speculation.
weeks, which means that I'm back to researching FNAF from square one. And I
Put it
thought
in the
we were
fucking
done with
trash.
the scary season. But hey, at least while
Now
I'm
it's
pulling my
proof
hair
again.
out, I can look good doing it thanks to my new Game Theory merch, which, just as one final reminder, is linked down
kinda want
in the
that orb.
description of this video. So grab
I might
yourself
check
a
it out.
jacket, a hoodie, one of the other jackets, a plasma ball, one of the other hoodies.
I
one of
really
the other
want a
jackets.
Fazbear, and
Got a lot
I
of
really
jackets
want
and
some
hoodies right
pretty
now. Anyway, grab
Fazbear
one of
merch.
those
I gotta
items or
find a
multiple
place
of
where I
those
can get
items
some
before
good
they're all
merch of
gone.
that.
Now if you'll
'Cause I'm
excuse
really
me, I gotta
into
go
Five
hide
Nights-
under my new Game Theory blanket. Just
'Cause I'm, like,
the thought of
really into
revisiting
Five Nights
all
at
of this
Freddy's,
lore yet again
but
is
I
making me
don't-
have nervous sweats. I guess I'll see you all next week, unless I decide to stay under here forever.
You see-
But hey,
Okay,
that's
I'll
just
talk
a
about it later.
theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching. And hey, if you want to go back to a time
Painful. That episode
when
was
we
truly
thought we
painful.
knew the ins and outs of this franchise, or if you're in the mood for horror
That's not helping now.
Played-
Like, jeez.
time, Chapter 3. And with that,
Who the hell is that? Never mind. That's for some other time. I haven't even played that game yet on the channel. I'll get to it later. But goddamn, that's killing me. Just, I really do need to find some good merch, Five Nights at Freddy's merch, where I can get from somewhere. But I'll just leave with whatever I said up to grabs. I just really have to use the bathroom. I drank way too much water. I'm dying right here, right now. My room is extremely warm, and I am not in a good position right now. So with that being said, as always, I'm Anthropomorphic Nerd. I'll see you in the next video. Okay, bye.